Welcome to Black Belt Beauty Radio, a podcast fueled by a passion to support your journey in developing your most beautiful and optimal performance in life. Each episode is driven with the intention to elevate your mind. When we elevate our mind, we elevate our life. So get ready. It's time to rise. Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to Black Belt Beauty Radio. In today's episode, I want to talk about a recent trip of mine to New York City. I just got back a couple days ago and share with you guys some of the biggest takeaways and insights that I gained from this trip. And the reason why is because I really do believe that these takeaways and these insights will serve value to you in your life and in your process. You know, we're all on different paths. We're all reaching for different things, but there are certainly some things that are universal in terms of, you know, the intangibles and the things that are going to be supportive to actualizing the vision, achieving the goals. And, you know, I certainly feel like this trip served me a lot of valuable content in that way to share with you. So I'm going to get right into it. I want to start by saying, so I lived in New York for several years of my life, and they were some of the best years of my life, some of the most powerful and formidable years of my life. You know, New York City is a very, very special place. You know, it's certainly not for everybody, but it was definitely for me. You know, it's like I always say, I wasn't born in New York, but I was certainly born to live in New York. And that's why I did for several years of my life. And, you know, so it's always like home for me. And I do go back and forth quite often for work and whatnot. But this is kind of the biggest gap since I had been last. And this trip just came to me like from a very intuitive place. Like New York was calling and I picked up, you know. I started getting the feeling that I needed to go and just, you know, check in with my people there. You know, I have friends that are like family out there. And, you know, I really want to make sure that I do my part to nourish those relationships. And being present is a, you know, important way to do that. And so, you know, that was one part of it. And then there's always business and work that could be done there, you know, meetings and things like that. And in addition, you know, there's so many amazing people that I want to talk to and have on the podcast as guests for you guys. So, you know, all of this started to formulate in my mind, and I started, you know, reaching out and connecting with my closest out there. And, you know, everyone, you know, was basically saying, get your ass out here. I mean, I even, my girl, Gabrielle Lyon, like, you know, served me just handfuls of incredible podcast guests. And I'll talk more about, you know, that experience later in this episode. But yeah, I mean, you know, I sat on the idea for a couple weeks basically and let it really, you know, kind of simmer inside of me, like think about it more, feel it more. And then, and then it was just a matter of like trying to find the time before the end of the year, because I ain't trying to go out there in February. But, you know, everything started to line up really well, and I found the perfect time, and, you know, everything was just all making sense. And so all I had to do left was to pull the trigger and, you know, get the ticket, do the thing. And, why I'm pointing this out in detail is because I want to put emphasis on the fact that this trip was very intuitive for me, right? Like I felt the calling, heard the calling, and that, you know, I think that is something, I'm going to give myself credit here, that is one thing I can honestly say, you guys, in my life that I've been really good at doing is listening to myself. You know, it's not easy to, first of all, listen to yourself, and we all do have an inner guidance system. But beyond that, I think it's difficult to trust ourselves. Like, how do we know, you know, that this is a sound decision? How do we know that this is something that we should really execute on? That kind of thing, right? And, you know, I certainly haven't always known for sure, but, you know, when the feeling is strong, I go towards it and I lean into it with trust. And honestly, it is never, it's never set me wrong. It's certainly put me in a lot of challenging situations at times, but you know, it's within those challenges I've been able to become the woman that I am. So, it all has served great purpose for me. I really do see it that way and believe that. And that actually fortifies the trust that I have, moving forward to be able to execute from a place of intuition, which is essentially how I really maneuver through my life, you know? with strategy. And, it's not like I throw caution to the wind, but yeah, I trust my intuition. So going back to, getting this feeling, and then, things lining up, and then it was just a matter of executing. Now we're talking about the trust part, right? So, I was meditating one morning before I basically bought the ticket, and my future self. So for those of you who are new to the podcast, you may not have heard me speak about this yet, but I have a relationship with my future self. She's very clear, very robust, very alive in my mind, and I visit with her every morning in meditation, straight up. And she is an incredible support system to my life. She's a powerful woman who just has all the things that I am reaching for in my life to blossom into. So it's not a disconnect, like I am not there, I'm not her. It's more of that she's the expanded version of who I am now, and I admire her and I trust her. And so one day in meditation, she, the trip came up for me, and not because I was afraid or anything like that. It was just top of mind, and came into meditation, and she decided to tell me that she was on the other side of that trip. And, with her saying that to me, again, I wasn't thinking about not going, but it just made it so ridiculously clear that that's it. Like, I'm on my way, and this trip it's supposed to happen. Like, this has to happen, And, I think that it's important to really kind of put some emphasis on that piece right now, because what I want to give you guys are some takeaways here that are going to be supportive and applicable to you in your life. So, number one, learning how to become more self-aware and more self-connected so that we can listen to our inner guidance system and hear our highest self speak to us. And then, being, having faith to be able to trust ourselves, without having it all figured out, even if it scares us. Even, in fact, I should say this too, that I think, so as the trip started to develop, and, I was getting connected to a lot of incredible, high performing elite experts in health and wellness, fitness, and podcasts started to line up. All of a sudden, before I knew it, I had this kind of compact week full of back-to-back podcasts and meetings and dinners, and it was a whole thing, right? So it wasn't this trip of like, oh, I'm just going to go hang out with my friends. It became a high-performing week, right? And so, there's a part in there that, as much as I love this shit, and I do, and I was ready for it, I knew that, there's a little bit of discomfort in the sense that, like, it's going to demand the best of me. And when I say discomfort, I'm not talking about pain, right? I'm not talking about suffering. It's nothing like that. It's just not, me right now sitting comfortably in this, my beautiful home with the candle lit and the temperature perfect. It was like, no, man, I'm going to be in New York City where you can't just, put all your bags in your car and then set your coffee perfectly down in the little coffee holder. No, you got bags on your back. You're running with your coffee in your hand. You're trying to get a taxi. You're trying to catch the metro. It's like that, And then on top of it, perform at a very high level in all these meetings and podcasts, etc. So there was a trigger there to my brain, which sensed, like a little discomfort coming on. And so, the brain loves to keep us safe. And so the brain will try to do things to, not basically make us move towards discomfort and challenge. But I'm hyper aware of this. That's why, I always express, like, you got to seek the fight and move towards a challenge, because that's actually my cue that, that's the direction to go in, because that's where the growth is going to happen. And so going back to my future self, when homegirl is like, I'm on the other end of this trip, that was it. That was like, there you go. You have to go live this process out, this, experiencing it, meet these new people, discover what you're capable of, back-to-back podcasts. It's a lot of work, which I'll talk about later in this kind of performance segment that I want to go into. But I want to take a breath and just really give you guys a moment, of thought where, are you feeling something in your life right now? Are you feeling a calling to do something? And maybe it's making you feel a little uncomfortable. But you know that in doing this, there's a lot of gain and reward, if anything, from an internal perspective. You might not be able to know the outcome of the situation, like if you're going to ask the person out or if you're going to apply for the job. You don't know if the person is going to say yes. You don't know if you're going to get the job, and it's uncomfortable to approach, but you know that, it's something that you need to do to just see what's on the other end of it, and feel yourself making the move towards these things that you want to do, whether it's removing something or adding something to your life, but ultimately moving towards something that makes you uncomfortable, that deep down inside, because you're getting the nudges, you're hearing the things, you're seeing the signs, but it might be scary to do it. And then maybe you're at this place where you're ready to do it, but you're like not sure if you could fully lean into trusting this nudge, this voice. Well, I want to be a voice of strength right now to tell you, listen, I mean, to be able to trust yourself in life, in my opinion, is the most fucking empowering thing you could do for yourself. I am all about insourcing, you guys. Getting support from the outside, leaning into the outside, that's great. That's important. I have that too. But first and foremost, it always starts within me. It always does, and then I'll weigh things out to see if it's really, something that I'm vibing with and that I want to execute from. But, don't be afraid to trust yourself. And obviously, listen, I'm speaking, to those who have a, healthy relationship with yourself, because I can't address everybody's situations. Everybody's so different. But, if this is you and you are, you have a healthy relationship with yourself and you're in a position where, you need to do something that will grow you, that will grow your life, grow your business, all of it. But you're making, feeling uncomfortable, but you can't ignore the feeling, the signs, the thoughts, and you're not sure if you can trust the decision that you would have to make. I say test the fucking waters, test it, see what you got, I mean, in my life, when I have executed from this place and put myself in challenging positions, the greatest piece is that I would always find my way out and I would rise from it, and so the challenge was certainly there in a way to serve me. So you can't, to be afraid of challenge or to be afraid of being wrong or failing, that is the worst thing I think anybody can do for themselves, because then you become paralyzed. You're static in life, and life isn't static. Life is constantly moving. Therefore, if we are not moving with it, we're just kind of dying slowly. That's, I don't know a better way to put it, but, yeah. So, maybe think about that. And, when it feels like you've been thinking about it enough and you're vibing, hard on this thing that you got to do, lean into your trust and fucking just go for it. Okay, so moving on to this trip. So now, I get to New York, and it's always so nice to be back in New York and visit this city that I will forever love. I got to a place in New York. The reason why I left is because the growth just wasn't taking place anymore the way that it had been for all the years, prior to that time where it was time to go, right? And I got to a place where I'm like, I'm good. Like my roots as an athlete and, my nature roots, I grew up at the beach, surfing, like that was all calling me, my family, my immediate family. So it's like, it was just time to go. But, it's that saying, like, you can take the girl out New York, but you can't take the New York out the girl or guy. And that is absolutely true for me in my scenario. So it felt so good to be back. And I want to really get into this aspect of high performance now, right? So, I knew that I was going to have to be, at the best of my games, right? Like every minute counts. Every hour was, scheduled with something important. There were some new experiences that I was going to have to put myself through, back to back podcasts take a lot of work. I was saying this earlier, but I'm going to tear into it really quick. So, it's a lot of cognition. It's a lot of brain work. Even though I'm just having a conversation, there's a lot more to it than that, especially when you are speaking to, elite level performers, and specifically even in health and wellness. I'm talking about biology, and I'm not a doctor, but I need to be fluent in the language enough to be able to carry this conversation, to with reverence for my guests, to bring out their expertise and their, what's lighting them up. And so it's just, it's a lot. It takes a lot of mental work. And so, I knew that this was going to be the first time where I had to go back to back and, in addition to all the other aspects of what my day was filled with. And so listen, I'm going to tell you right now, I fucking crushed the week straight up. Like it was an incredible week for me, on all levels, like the meetings, the podcasts, internally, the way I witnessed myself do it all, like that was powerful for me. And so, but what I think is so important to share with you here is that I made sure that I set myself up to win. And, I think a lot of people have high expectations of themselves, high standards, want to crush, want to do all these things, but don't necessarily lay down the work that is necessary to create the environment, both internally and externally, in order to succeed at that level. If you're not eating well, if you're not training, if you're not sleeping good, those are just a few of the most basic but most powerful things. And then you're trying to get through your meetings and have cognition and do all it's like how, yeah, you can get away with it maybe for a little while, but that's where burnout comes, and I'm very committed to this, life where I can perform at a high level with longevity and not burn out. And that is because I'm all about holistic high performance, making sure that all the bases are being touched, like all the important things, right? I'm not just doing all this work. Like, I'm on the blue light laptop at 12 o'clock at night and then trying to get up and do a podcast next morning. No, I'm not fucking doing that. That's a disaster that will inevitably take place, right? So, knowing that I had to go into this week the way that I told you, that I mentioned that I was going to have to do, I made sure that, my food that I needed to operate at my highest level was always available when I needed it. I was doing my best to get, adequate amounts of quality sleep, even though it was a little jet lag. I was basically getting up in the morning and doing my meditation and doing my journaling and, doing my training, all the stuff that I do in my life, period. But just driving home the point that I made sure that stuff stayed intact, and it was an absolute priority, not only for my own well-being and just because I love it so much, it's my life, it's not really a discipline, but really connecting the dot that in order for me to really, perform at the level that I expected myself to perform, then I needed to make sure that I was taking care of myself on the highest level, right? And so I'm going to just now say this to you that, take a look at your life right now. And if there are certain things that, you wish to be accomplishing at, with more performance at a higher level, if there's certain standards that you are trying to uphold for yourself, but you're not really hitting the mark, where are you not setting yourself up to win, basically, and that's going to look different for everybody. But it's such an important piece to share, you guys, because like I said, I just don't know if a lot of people, I think that part is overlooked. It's like a lot of people look at the work that has to get done, but forgetting about that, you are the vehicle to the work. So if your mind's not in the right place, if your body's not in the right place, how are you going to crush your goals, your jobs, your anything really, right? You are the vehicle. So you have to honor it, and honoring it and respecting it is making sure that you are taking care of it. So the next thing that I want to talk about, is that throughout this trip, when I said that I witnessed how I was performing, I talk about this a lot. This is a big theme under, Black Belt Beauty and really just what I believe in. I believe that, being on your team is the best thing that you could do for yourself in your life. It's being your own best friend. It's being your own coach. It's being your own teammate, and, as I'm going through this week and, I'm literally like putting on my makeup and making my 6-minute eggs at the same time. Like I am hustling one thing to the next. I'm talking to myself the whole way through it, literally out loud and, in my mind. And, the thing is, you guys, we're always talking to ourselves, even when we're always hearing ourselves, even when we don't know we are, right? So it's like, it's so important that this inner dialogue is one that serves you. And listen, I'm not saying that I am immune to any kind of disempowering thoughts or things of that nature. No, they fucking come for sure. I've just gotten to a place where I can realize that they're there as intruders. Like when they come around, I know that's an intruding thought. It doesn't line up with my being. It's not a part of who I am. And, that I'm able to recognize that because of, all the deep introspective work that I've done, throughout my life, all my journaling and meditation. These are pathways, you guys, for deeper self-awareness and self-connection. And they're powerful tools so that, self-connection, self-awareness, so that when these disempowering thoughts, or you can call them negative thoughts or whatever, come around and this dialogue that isn't serving you, you can flick that shit away like, nah, I don't think so. Like, you don't even make sense, and go away, So, throughout this trip, I was literally just like, yeah, Roxy, go, you got this. Okay, good. Take a breath. Okay, cool. We're going to do this now. We're going to set this up. And I talk myself through the process. And I don't know if anybody else does this. I'm sure people do, but you guys, if you haven't tried that yet, it is so fucking supportive. Do it out loud. Like, just talk, like, especially when you're in the grind and the hustle and you really have to, every minute counts. You have to be organized. It's so powerful to be able to walk yourself through it and to do it as if, like, just imagine that you have a coach, if you watch fights, and a lot of people that listen to this podcast, are into MMA because I'm super into it, right? But when you watch a fighter in the octagon, you got the cornermen and they're talking to their fighter, and you can hear them guiding as the fighter is, in the moment. And it's the same thing. It's like, walk yourself through it with support. And I have chills right now because I wish, and I know the difference. Let me say that. I know the difference. I know the difference of when, the dialogue isn't that way, when that wasn't happening, to where, versus now, and this has been the case for me, for so many years now. And I know the difference of how I'm able to function, as a result of this switch and being on my team and really just having my own back. It is powerful, you guys. So, I guess that's the big takeaway in this little segment, this piece right here. Set yourself up to win. Make sure that you're creating an environment, both internally and externally, supportive for you to be able to crush. And then make sure that your dialogue is supportive, no doubtful worries, and even if those thoughts do come, because I don't feel like we can control our thoughts that come, right? But I do believe that the more empowered we operate from in our life and the healthier that we are, those thoughts start to sneak. They don't come as often or as hard, but I do also believe that they're always going to exist. Like, those kind of disempowering negative thoughts will always find their way to you. And then, when you are feeling very empowered and when you are on your highest path and operating from this kind of highest expression of self, yourself, you are better able to brush that shit aside and not let it enter your fortress, basically, and take over you. So that's the big piece there, be on your team, set yourself up to win, make sure that your dialogue is supportive to you. And the next piece I want to talk about here is being prepared for anything, being agile. So one of the days, where I had like two podcasts back to back and big ones, just in terms of like just big, period. The guests are amazing. The conversations are going to be, very geeky. I woke up and my right eye was like, my eyelid was super inflamed. Like there was an actual allergic reaction to something. I think it might have been the pillow or something, because my breathing was a little compressed, but nothing that was like freaking me out, to where it was like, go to the doctors. It was just like, are you fucking kidding me? Like this puffy, big ass eyelid, and oh my gosh. But the funny thing is, you guys, and it's so powerful to really witness yourself, because I looked in the mirror and yeah, that sucked. I was like, really, right now? I gotta meet some new people with this eye, and I should post a picture with this podcast, because it was legit, like just, yeah, not cute. Anyways, I just remember that it didn't faze me. It did not faze me. I just kind of looked at it and I was like, all right, okay, we'll put some ice on it. I started thinking about some other things that I could do. Ultimately, it was like, just get your ass to the gym, go sweat, circulation. And it actually really did help. But it was still, inflamed by the time my first podcast guest came. But the point is that, I set myself up to win. I did all the things. I had no idea that I was going to wake up on a big podcast day and have a fucking allergic reaction that was completely visible on my face, right? And, listen, that could have totally thrown me off my game. Like while it may not have been an urgent medical thing, it was still just for vanity reasons, even. Like, it's just not, it wasn't cute. But I was so focused on the goal, and the goal was to make sure that I delivered an amazing environment for my guests to come on and have a rad conversation with me. When I say environment, I mean like energetically, and my performance, my ability to carry this conversation with them. I was so focused on that, you guys. It didn't even, I was like, this is annoying, but it ain't going to take me down, It's impressive. Like, I impressed myself, actually, because I was like, dang, girl, like, you are focused. So the piece to offer you in that is that make sure that, you're prepared for anything, and hopefully you don't wake up and have a allergic reaction on your eye or things like that. But listen, shit happens. And that's really what I want to kind of why I'm bringing this piece to life, is because, you can do all the right things, but something all of a sudden just lands on your lap, your car gets towed, something happens. Like, there's so many examples that we can make, but I don't need to. Shit goes down. What are you doing? Are you the victim all of a sudden? Are you going to fucking champion, your way through that? That's a big question. And when I look back and I see that I wasn't the victim and I championed myself through, and at the end of that night, you guys, I felt more proud than probably if I had not, had that happen to me, because I witnessed how I got some random shitty thing thrown at me right out the gate in the morning, and I didn't let it faze me. I didn't let it faze my performance. I executed with excellence. And by the end of the night, it had really gone down for the most part. I felt so extra proud of myself, and so it's just, be ready for anything and know that you are capable to handle it, and really think about that piece that I just shared with you. Are you the victim, or are you going to be the champion? And act accordingly. Act accordingly. And I'll tell you what, every time you witness yourself act as, the champion, and you look back, that is a stripe on your belt that next time some shit goes down, you can refer back to who you were in that situation. It's not even about the situation. I mean, that's one part, when you go through some shit and you're like, I handled that, so I can handle this. That is for sure a part of it too. But the bigger piece here is you witnessing who you are in a state of challenge and how you function. And when you witness how you go through it like a fucking badass, that is powerful shit. And it just keeps building, and you're fortifying the champion in you. And, that's priceless. This is why I felt very inspired to talk about this trip with you guys, because if you can see, it's not so much about the content of the trip, and that is like a whole epic episode in of itself. In fact, several episodes, because there's so many rad podcasts that I created on this trip, and I cannot wait to share with all you guys. These new friends, these guests, they're incredible humans. The meetings, so much powerful movement for the podcast specifically, but even outside of that. But this isn't about that. This is about me and how I functioned and the things that I witnessed from myself in this trip, and how that is so transferable to you in your life as well. Because I'm not anything. I'm not Superwoman. My life has certainly offered me a lot of opportunities to develop my resilience. But at the end of the day, and I do believe that I came out as a fighter for sure. So I already had some shit in me, I came downloaded with. But at the end of the day, it's my willingness to keep expanding the fighter in me, to keep moving towards challenge, to keep growing, and keep trusting myself and operating from this state of connection and intuition. That is an absolute choice for sure. And so, I think it could be really helpful and inspiring when we are hearing others go through their life and experiencing these things. And, it's just, that's my hope anyways. My hope is that you guys taking in this information, it's inspiring you in your own process, and have you really look around and evaluate your scenario and go, okay, can I trust myself more? Can I, maybe it is time to move towards that challenge. How is my inner dialogue? Am I actually setting myself up to win? Or maybe I need to go to bed a little bit earlier so that I can wake up earlier and feel more refreshed, or, etc., all that stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much that's what I got for you in this episode. But and I think I covered the biggest pieces of it. So yeah, you guys, I'm super grateful. Again, this trip was phenomenal for me, and my future self, that woman, she was absolutely right, because when I flew home, I did feel expanded, and I did feel closer into her, after having this incredible week in New York. And it really felt like such a launch pad for all of the other things, that my ambitions that I'm reaching for. And so, so I'm proud to be able to share this with you. And I would love to know your thoughts. If this is supportive to you, please snap this and this screen grab this and throw it on your Instagram. Tag me. I'm at Roxy Look, and I'm at Black Belt Beauty as well. Your feedback does so much for me. It really does. And I know it's like hard to just, we don't have time and attention. It's, so to actually go out of your way to do something like that, to give a shout out, it takes a lot. And that's why for all of you who do it, you have no idea how much I fucking love you and appreciate you, because I'm just this, woman operating on full intuition here with the full intention to make this podcast as juicy in support for you all as I possibly can. And, you giving me that feedback lets me know that I'm hitting the mark. So thank you in advance to all of you who will send me some love and some feedback and let me know what your thoughts are on this episode. And as always, I am always looking forward to being right here again with you. So love you guys, and catch you on the next one. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode, you guys. If you loved it, please share it on your social. Throw it up on your Instagram stories and tag me. I'm at Black Belt Beauty. I am also at Roxy Look, RoxyLook. I love connecting with you guys. This is a conversation that I want to just continue growing with you guys. So if you feel inspired to hit me up, do so in that space. I always enjoy hearing from you. If you'd like to support this podcast, you can do so by rating it and reviewing it via iTunes. It's such supportive help, you guys. It really helps the visibility of this podcast. So I appreciate and thank you in advance for doing that. And last but not least, if you are interested in starting your own podcast, or perhaps you already have one and you need help with, editing your audio and the production of it, I cannot recommend my producers enough. Resonate recordings, you guys, they are the bomb. I rely on them. They are an absolute supportive tool to me and my podcast. So check them out and let them know that Black Belt Beauty sent you. And on that note, you guys, I'm signing off with all my love and always looking forward to catching you on the next.